All right, welcome everybody to this week's virtual wine tasting, Tipple's Brews and Wine with Elizabeth and Jeff Beaudre, coming at you live from Gainesville, Florida, going out to all around the world to other areas of Gainesville, Florida.
Hey, you don't know who watches the YouTube?
Recordings,
Yeah,
it could be a thing.
Okay.
All right, but I like seeing a lot of familiar faces. It makes me happy. All right, so this week we are going to be
Do you want me to share
enjoying.
that?
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump over.
Okay.
Barolo, like we finally found a Barolo that works with our wine of the week, even during the holiday season. So I'm really excited to bring this one in. The Vallebelbo Barolo le Filere. All right.
Okay.
So what is le Filere? We'll talk about it when I do the label.
Okay.
All right. Right now I'm going to leave you in suspense. But so if you have not already done so, it's that magical time to pour yourself a glass of wine. This is a Barolo, so this week I did break out the big guns and we decanted. It can use.
Thank you. It also looks pretty.
Right?
Mhm.
So beautiful. My swan decanter. So enjoy how looking at this, you look at it and say, oh, look, it's almost like light and delicate looking. But
Yeah. I made a really big mistake like 4.5 minutes ago. I brushed my teeth.
oh, well,
It
when
was-
it'll work through about
Okay.
4 or 5 sips and you'll be fine.
Okay. All right.
We'll get you second or third glass of wine. You'll be-
Second or third
you'll be all
bottle
about
would
it.
be just
Hey,
fine.
we've got more bottles. We're fine. There's always more where that came from. So take a sniff, take a sip. I'm going to talk a bit about food pairings as you guys kind of gain your first thoughts on this. Food pairings: ossobuco, roasted goose, venison stew, truffle risotto, mushroom pizza, or extra dark chocolate.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Right.
Mhm.
All right. So now I'm going to jump in here. This is 100% Nebbiolo.
Stop the share.
So, yes, please. So, Barolo is a region, which we'll talk about in the label section in a moment. But this is going to be 100% Nebbiolo is the grape.
Okay.
They don't have to be 100%. They could have small amounts of other grapes in there. But in this case,
This
which I
one
really
is.
liked, it is all Nebbiolo. So you're getting a really good expression of what this region has to offer and what this grape has to offer.
So because you were tasting today with reps,
Mhm.
I started putting the presentation together.
Mhm.
And that's what I couldn't find where they did a breakdown of what it was. But I was just doing like searches and trying to grab things
Oh,
for you.
sure.
But yeah, I saw Nebbiolo, but I didn't see where it said percentage. And so I thought, I don't know if that means it's 100% or, if I
And-
had to do a deeper dive.
No, that makes sense. And you do, and I know
Okay.
where to look because I do it all the time.
Okay.
So, but this would be 100%, but it wouldn't necessarily be so.
Okay.
There is a grape that they can throw in there, which is called Freesia,
Okay.
I say. And so I actually, it's in such small percentages
Mhm.
that it is rare for anyone to know what that even tastes like on its own, because often like 5%.
So are we looking for a bottle of that on its own?
I have a bottle of
Do
that.
you
on its own.
really?
I do. I'm probably the only person in the state of Florida buying said bottle. But it's a lot of fun, but that's a separate discussion. You know me, though, I love to break it to the component parts. That's right. The 3 bottles, we got them all. So, all right, so Nebbiolo grape. Barolo and Nebbiolo in general it can be tight. It can come out of the glass, come out of the bottle wound up.
Mhm.
So giving this one a little time to breathe is very important. And no matter where you started during this process,
Mhm.
we'll be here for 40 minutes or so. It'll open up. It'll be
Okay.
fine. This one, not all of them will. Now, Jake and
Some
I,
of them just stay wound.
oh my goodness, there's one in the store that is a great Barolo,
Mhm.
or will be one day.
Okay.
All right. But right
Just
now,
like throwing in your wine cellar, forget about it.
it was 2017. So Jake and I thought, okay, well, this would be good.
It's been 6
I
years.
brought it in and it was half bottles. And I thought 6 years, I'm in the mood for a glass of wine. We popped this bottle. It did not open. Oh
Really?
my gosh, it was hours and it was just
You
so
let it
tight.
open, you aerated it.
Yeah,
It's still.
it was a beast. And it's empirically, it's a really good wine, an amazing winemaker. It just hadn't gotten there. Now, this one doesn't have that issue. This one is a lot more friendly,
Okay,
especially for the age. So it allows you to get to where you can see what other Nebbiolos and Barolos can become with time.
Mhm.
That was one of the things I liked about it and chose this for,
okay,
is it's a friendly Barolo.
okay.
Hmm,
It's a friendly
Mhm.
Barolo. It's so approachable.
it is. And yet it's still,
It's like this.
it's still got my
like
tongue.
this.
It's still,
It is, you can feel those
Right,
tannins
right.
just wanting to make you pucker a little bit.
right, it wants to weld your tongue to the roof of your mouth is kind of how I
Mhm.
describe it. Because it wants something with fat that you're eating to kind of work with.
Yeah,
And that's that beauty. That's what that synergy of 1 + 1 = 3 situation
Mhm.
is this with something with some fat in it, whether it is a piece of red meat or whether it is
like a fatty fish.
like a mushroom with olive oil,
Okay.
right? So you get the
Okay.
fat in there one way or the other will make a
So
big difference.
fat with avocado? Cause that has fat in it, but is it
It's-
just too light
it
of a flavor?
does,
It's a
yeah.
very delicate flavor. It might just be.
Yeah, I mean,
a little bit.
let's look at it like if you took the avocado and
Mhm.
you put in some, let's say, some gorgonzola to
Okay,
give it something to work with,
Okay.
right?
okay.
And then drizzled it in olive oil and maybe ate it with some olives all together in one bite.
Okay.
I could see that working.
Too.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. We can construct this bite of food in theory. All right, so age worthiness.
Mhm.
What are we looking for?
So what are we looking for?
Mhm.
We're looking for tannins, we're looking for alcohol content, and
Mhm.
we're looking for acidity.
Mhm. All right, so what do you say about tannins?
I mean, we just said it makes your tongue feel like it's sticking through your mouth, so.
Right, so no shortage of tannins.
Right.
Would you say this tastes acidic? Or at least enough acid to be fresh and bright,
Yes.
right?
Mhm,
So I wouldn't say I'd call it an overly acidic wine.
mhm.
But is it fresh and bright?
Fresh and bright,
Yes. Yeah,
yes.
red fruits popping out of there, sure.
What is the alcohol content?
14%.
Oh, okay. So
It
we're looking-
still tastes very Italian, which is also just generally very acidic, in my opinion, anyway.
No, for sure. Italians tend to be, in general, other than one notable region, kind of a high acid wine production region of the world. And that plays so well with their foods.
Hmm.
And so
What region is not like that? No.
Puglia,
Okay.
so where they're growing Primitivo and Negro Amaro,
Hmm.
tends to be richer. And then also not all of the wines, but some of the wines from Veneto, so up in the Venice region in the northeast. When they but they have to overcome it, right? Because that's where they dry the grapes. So you've got that passamento method.
Mhm.
So where they dry the grapes and raisinate them
Right.
in order to try to manage some of that acid,
Okay.
because they still have acid in that wine, but yeah. But generally, you've got like Sangiovese, all these things definitely have high acid to play with food.
So based on what you're saying though, about like the three things that we're looking for, the tannins, and so I would say like 7 years, but it seems, I mean, it is wound up right now still. So I guess that is another thing that we look at, that, okay, if it's wound up, then maybe it needs more time.
It could definitely take
It
more.
could take more time.
Right.
Sorry, if it opens, then it doesn't need more time, but
Right.
so what, 7 to 10?
Yeah, easily. Yeah, this guy could be a good 10. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. And it's made to be a more easy drinker, and yet it's still something that could go 10. A lot of the Barolos, where they're making them kind of in that classic Barolo style,
Mhm,
where they're really, really wound up,
mhm.
you don't even want to touch them before 15. They can be 15, 30 years before you want to touch some of the classic
Wow.
ones. This one is made to be a little more friendly, and yet it can still definitely, in my opinion, hang out for a good 10 years.
Okay,
Mhm.
awesome. And what is this is 2017, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah,
Mhm.
because I actually did look at that earlier today.
No.
Because I was trying to get some of the slides.
You
ready.
were being very helpful.
So, and then Jerry
But
said,
that's a very good point, Megan.
his took 20 to 30 minutes to open up.
I can-
So how long have you had it open for now, Jerry?
Probably closer to an hour.
Okay,
Quite.
Hmm. Right, and Paul has.
yeah, he does have a question. I just, things cut off, so I didn't know.
Yeah, no, y'all were hitting on it, but so out of those three things, the acidity, the tannins, and the alcohol content, is there one that's really going to be dominant as far as what's going to determine how long of the ageability?
No, there's really isn't a dominant
They
one.
play together.
They all play together. It's a mix. And because, for example, if you go with champagne, right? Champagne can age. Champagne has a ton of acidity and it has a very nice amount of alcohol, but almost no tannins at all,
Right,
right? No
right.
tannins, excuse me, no tannins, it's white.
Right,
Well,
right.
I mean, technically, if you made a rosé, there'd be some in there from the Pinot, but let's
Negligible.
call it negligible. So in that case, you're discounting the tannic side as an aging potential, and yet it can age incredibly well. Then there is also residual sugar, which is something that it's not one of the big three because it's not as common with what wine drinkers are drinking nowadays.
Mm.
But it really is a big four because there's residual sugar. Because if you look at Riesling can age really well because it has a lot of residual sugar, the sweet ones.
Okay,
So they don't have a ton of alcohol.
Right.
They have no tannin,
right,
but they have residual sugar and acid.
okay,
So if you look at if you were to look at what crosses all the borders,
Mhm.
acid.
okay.
So if I had to give a nod to anything,
It would be acid.
I guess I'll walk back my thing and say I'd nod to acid.
Okay.
If I had to,
So we just don't talk about sugar because we're not drinking sweet wines.
right? We're just not commonly drinking about, but it is a big four. It's really not a big three.
Okay,
But then we would almost like 98% of what we
say-
drank, we'd be like, discount the sugar ones.
Sure.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so that's why we just don't talk about it basically.
Yeah.
And then, like Chris said that it's very cherry forward, but not too tart. His has been open for about 45 minutes.
Okay, yeah,
Mhm.
nice. So, barrel aging, this has 2 years in barrel. It's aged 3 years before release minimum. 2 of the years in barrel. They don't say what kind of barrel. I'm almost certain from tasting this, got to be French, right?
Okay.
Because we're not dealing with a bunch of vanilla.
Right,
So we're dealing with probably French, probably not first use French. So we've got plenty of spice. The tannin is still very aggressive. So a younger barrel aging would tame that tannin a little bit more, but it would also dominate a lot of the flavors by asserting vanilla on it.
okay.
So they're not doing that
Mhm.
because they want to keep their true regional taste. So therefore it does leave this very regional characteristic of high tannin.
Okay.
Did you say that a younger barrel would tame the tannins more? Why is that?
It has
So-
more of its own flavor.
Right, so you're right. So if let's say it's a first use barrel, right? It's the first time it's ever coming in contact. That younger oak is much more aggressive chemically with the way it's going to interact with the wine. And one of the effects of it is taming and kind of smoothing out tannins. And then the other sides of it kind of adds some of its own flavor with that toasty vanilla that it'll throw in there and that kind of a thing. So a lot of people, if they want to just get some taming of the tannins, but they want to leave the real character, they don't use new oak. They use older oak that's already been through a couple of aging cycles. Or they will minimally use, so that you say, all right, we've got 100 gallons. And they say, well, only 5 gallons are going to see the new oak, and we will blend it all back together. And the rest will be minimal or older oak or no oak.
They would do that to get some of the flavor of the new oak in there, but not too much.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can play with that either way too. You could also, because that's the thing with wine, right?
Mhm.
You could do 100 gallons are new oak. The
Mhm.
rest is maybe older oak or no oak. Or you could say all of it sees older oak
Yeah,
and come up with a very similar taste, but it just depends on which way you want to get there.
sure.
All right, so
We want to start talking about what we're tasting.
let's talk about what we're tasting and smelling. All
So,
right.
like Chris and Robin said, cherry and then maybe some cedar.
I would say yes, I agree 100%. Anybody getting roses? Kind of a potpourri effect.
Mhm.
That's really common with Barolos and Nebbiolo in general. And not the only one. There are several. It's more than anywhere else in the world. Italy
Italian.
has grapes where you think, oh, roses, you know, it's kind of nice. They pop up in there. It's very, very fragrant and pretty.
Mhm.
That is one reason this wine can kind of fool people. You look at it and say, well, that looks medium bodied, a little bit like a Pinot,
Right.
right? You smell it. Pretty cedar and potpourri, roses, that kind of a thing, and cherries. And then you sip it and say, whoa, my goodness, there's a lot of flavor and a lot of grip on this guy.
Mhm.
It's a sneaky one.
Mhm.
Anyone getting leather on the palate?
The palate.
Kind of a dry, dusty old book.
Yeah, I'm getting that. But I have to do a, like I have to roll it around in my mouth. a while.
Yeah, give it a real good chew and let it really come around there. And then little hints of like a high peak. Anyone getting like a high peak noticing, what is this? Is this herby? What is this? This is also something that's very common, eucalyptus. Like a bit of it. It's in that herbal side. You say, when am I going sage? Where am I going on this? Kind of the earthy herbal side rather than the bright floral side.
Okay, I get an earthy, but I don't get eucalyptus, but I'm just not.
Especially on the nose, like give it a sec, don't smell it
Oh.
and go back in.
How did we drink the entire bottle already?
Yeah, no,
It's-
let me get you more to work.
Thank you. Just grab the bottle.
You need something to work with here.
I want a fancy decanter like that. I use my like martini stirring crystal
Mhm.
glass, like for martinis to do my decanting.
What? It all works. Like the only thing that matters is air contact, right? If it was a Kool-Aid pitcher, that would be great. You like it. Oh yeah. So I'm gonna say, like, I get in here and really sitting at the top of the glass to me
Mhm.
with the roses is a eucalyptus flavor. No,
Eucalyptus aroma.
aroma.
Mhm.
Mhm. Gentlemen.
So, Robin said it tastes very rustic to her,
Mhm.
like a farmhouse, some old dusty wood and
Mhm.
flowers and plants right outside. Which
Yeah.
makes sense because the floral mixed with it.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, you got floral, you got cedar, you got that wood.
Mhm.
And I will say, I find the barrel aspect in a lot of Italian wines to remind me of a dusty barrel. It's a very common, you guys will hear me say that when I'm drinking Italian wine. It's like this, it reminds me, I'm down in the cellar and it's aging and there's dust on these barrels and I get this dusty barrel thing because the tannins are so dusty as well.
It reminds you of that.
Yes,
How many cellars have you been in?
I've been in approximately 275 different Italian cellars.
I'm just saying, I have absolutely, well, no, I did have a basement in North Carolina, but it wasn't like that. It wasn't like a dusty,
Mhm.
yeah, so.
I've been in several Maine and Massachusetts cellars.
You're just telling me you were terrified because that's where they sent you to sleep.
That is true.
Before your sentence. You had to sleep in the cellar.
Nothing in Connecticut. I think those cellars are a little nice.
Okay. So, and then Chris said that he also he couldn't identify the herb, but did agree with you as far as herbal. Mhm.
Herbal.
Yeah, I'm getting the herbal as well, but I can't tell if it's reminding me more of what I would eat with it, or if I'm actually getting those flavors. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
it
it's
does make sense.
pulling out these sensations to me that remind me of living in Italy, remind me of those flavors. So I'm not sure, like, I'm like, I can almost taste the olive oil and the basil, but I think that's just association.
That makes sense. How about, because I talked about eucalyptus and I didn't get a lot of nods, but what about rosemary?
Rosemary.
And
Rosemary.
Rosemary, I can.
we'll get there. I'll keep throwing out words until you guys nod. And then I'm like, I'm a genius. That's how I work.
That's what I say all the time, sweetie.
Yeah, that I won't shut up until I get my way.
Oh, no, you're a genius. That's- I say that every day.
All right, let's talk about the label. Why not?
Okay. Okay, and then Rachel said rosemary and calcium is the mineral for her.
Okay. Calcium. Hmm.
I don't know that if I can
know.
identify the flavor of calcium. She's just there gnawing on bones and stuff a lot, and so.
I get it from
Oh.
shellfish. As a shellfish eater, that's something that's like, especially like oysters, raw oysters on half shell.
Hmm.
That's kind of like essence of.
Yeah,
It's different from turtles on the half shell.
no, you just ate a bunch of oysters, what, 2 days ago?
I did. Oh, they
Does
were
it
so
remind
good.
you of that at all?
Not so much getting that. To
No,
me, if
he
I
doesn't-
were,
He disagrees heartily with
No.
the calcium.
I'm not tasting that, but fair is fair. I am tasting a little bit more of like a smoky baker's chocolate thing coming out now that it's been open a little bit longer. As we've talked, I love going in for another sip and saying, hey, here's something new that I'm getting. And we had that sea smoked chocolate for a little while in the store,
Oh,
and
yeah.
yeah, a little bit of that. It's nice when you get there, you're like, oh, yeah, okay, there's something unusual. I know. Hopefully everyone is thinking, regardless of which notes you agree with or don't, hopefully they're thinking tasty, but we'll get to that at the end when we wrap it all up. Okay, so
You want me to share that?
yes, please.
Okay.
I never know because I can see it all the time now. All right. The wine label review. All right, this is the whole part where we pretend that you shop at other stores and that are not Tipples, and so you don't give any help. You're wandering around, you're lost, you're afraid. You just want something to make you feel happy, and there's no one to help you. So, this one would be one of those that really could use a little help unless you're already familiar with Italian wines. If you've been in Italy like Megan, then you know what you're doing, but not everyone would, and that's fair. So old world wine label, you get on there, it says Barolo, right? And La Filere. It's not telling you what the grape is. And if it did, I don't know, almost, the vast majority of Americans would not be made to feel any better with the word Nebbiolo because they don't know the grape.
Mhm.
So this is very much one of those that could use guidance.
Sure.
Makes sense, right? It's old world. That's kind of, it's part of it. It's part of wine education. Fair is fair. That's how it is. Le Filere means the rose, referencing the rose in the vineyard, right? Traditional 100% Nebbiolo grape, 2 years aged in barrel. I throw some of this out early because I just remember what I wrote, but yeah, whatever. Here we are again. No details, almost certainly French oak. Relies heavily, like if you were to give any kind of designation on it, you say, oh, yeah, well, it says Barolo, so it has to be from Barolo. And it says DOCG on the label, on the up in the capsule
Oh,
area.
yes. Mhm.
So that is the top quality level designation for grape in Italy.
Okay.
So, which I've got my next slide, which we'll talk about what the different levels are. But DOCG, so guarantee of geographic area plus guarantee of quality.
So
That's that combination.
if I don't know anything and I'm walking around, I will not know what that means.
Mm,
But I will see that it has a stamp of some sort, thinking, oh, okay, well, it has some kind of designation that, I don't know what this means, but there's an official stamp.
there is.
So that gives me like a little bit of confidence.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I could definitely say that. And if you wanted to like memorize something real quick, even if you're thinking, I don't want to memorize the different regions of Italy, but I want to know what's better. It's not a guarantee because it's mostly DOCG designates a region and a grape and how you can make the grape into wine.
Mhm.
It doesn't guarantee that's going to be good, right? Nobody's sipping it saying that qualifies this year.
Right.
But it would never have been given unless they had such a history of success
Mhm.
that it's basically guaranteed. That's why they throw the G on there.
Okay.
So if you take nothing else out of this for Italian wines, if you're out and you're looking and you want to pick something up, look for DOCG.
Okay.
And then you're going to have a greatly increased chance of a better wine.
Awesome.
Not that there aren't other ones that aren't DOC. Actually, we're going to talk about something, one of my favorite things in a moment, but if you go to the next
Sure.
slide, please. All right, so different levels. Vino di tavola. Tavola is table, right?
So
Table wine, lowest level. IGT, indication of geographic area, typically from this area. Yeah, it's from here. Yeah. Are you from here? I'm here.
But
All
it's,
right.
but it is with, because this is typica, does that mean this is a typical representation of the area, or it just means it's from this region? That's it.
It means it's from this region.
Okay, all right,
And
okay.
generally, this is what you can expect from here, but here's the thing, super Tuscans,
Mhm,
some of the most expensive wines from Italy are super Tuscans,
mhm.
and they're from Tuscany. So IGT, hey, it's from Tuscany. But because Tuscany is known for Chianti's, Sangiovese grape,
Mhm.
right? They are blended with Bordeaux grapes. So you've got Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Petit Verdot, those kinds of things jumping in there. They have to be called IGTs.
Okay,
So even though they are extremely high quality, some of them, not all of them, they get the same designation as something just above table wine because they are not all Sangiovese. They are not made in the style that
Okay.
is inherent to the history of Tuscany. So
interesting.
it is an interesting split in that area. Anyway, DOC. So now it's a controlled region. So now it's like, no, it cannot be this unless it is these grapes or this grape
Mm,
and vinted in this way. And then DOCG means it's particularly high quality growing area and specific grapes and
Sure.
specific vintification.
But it doesn't mean that somebody tasted it and said, this tastes
It
good.
does not. You know, one of the only ones in the world, and it's interesting to me, there's so few designations in the world that have anything to do with people tasting it and saying this is good. They're all about, hey, here's a region. You like this region? Good. I guarantee you it's from that region. Can you guarantee me anything else? No, I don't do that.
Okay,
But anyway.
They also, a lot of it comes down to like the way they are making the wine as well, because there are newer vineyards that are trying to shake it up a bit, do things eco-friendly, et cetera, that won't get DOC certification because they're changing the rules. And so
Right.
it's very old school. They do it with olive oil and other things as well.
Mhm. Nice. All right. All right, so let's go on to the next one.
okay.
All right. All right, Nebbiolo grapes. The Nebbiolo. I don't know if any of you guys noticed and want to call me on it, but that's the same picture I used last week for Tarrega National now
Because they all
because
look the same.
you know what? Red wine grapes look like red wine grapes almost completely.
When you show that other slide, it's like some of them look longer, some of them look like bunchier.
Yeah, there are minor differences in the bunches, but for the most part, they look alike. Yeah.
Except for the ones that when you cut them open, some of them are red all the way through, some of them are white.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a traditional black-skinned,
With
white
white
flesh
color.
grape.
Mhm.
Okay. The name comes from nebbia, which means fog. The region that we're talking about, Barolo and well, up in Piedmont, which we'll talk about that region of Italy. But this region is known for its morning fogs
Okay,
that linger. And this is traditional and indigenous to that region. So they named it for those fogs. Nebbia became Nebbiolo. Nebbiolo grapes are used in the region surrounding the towns of Barolo and Barbaresco. So when you see these, they're also the names of wines, but they are based on the names of towns,
okay.
villages. Go to the,
Yeah, I thought I saw that they make a Barbaresco as well.
they do.
Okay.
Yep. And we'll talk about why they make one of each and
Okay.
why it crosses over boundaries
Okay.
and why it's okay.
Okay.
And it's
And
okay.
why it's okay.
So Nebbiolo, dominant flavors, roses,
Mhm.
cherries, leather,
Mhm.
clay pot. I like that description on the minerality because we were kind of bouncing around a couple of different things.
Sure. What's that last thing?
And anise.
I especially like the little picture for it too.
Yeah,
I think Robin will appreciate it.
that's right. A little bit of star anise or anise, depending on which side of the pond you are on.
Mhm.
So medium bodied, medium fruit, they go, yeah, medium high body. That's fair. I'm good with that. To me, the tannins kind of pump up where you would perceive the body. To me, I always go medium bodied on this. Medium plus is fair. I get it. But the tannins are high, acidity is high, alcohol is medium high. That all checks out to me. And we covered a lot of these flavors, so it makes me feel good about the description.
I feel like, at least with ours, that I don't know how long it was open before, but I feel like the tannins have calmed down a little bit. I don't feel like it's sticking to the roof of my mouth quite as much. Still definitely there, but not quite as puckery.
You feel that way.
Because it's true.
Right,
Okay.
yep, yeah, you're totally right. It's had almost an hour now,
Okay.
so it's, it kind of seems to do that thing where it holds on
Mhm.
and then finally says, fine, I'll relax. You can drink me now. Okay. So Nebbiolo, where is Nebbiolo grown?
Shocking.
Italy.
Yeah.
But look at number 2, Mexico.
Mexico.
How cool is that?
Huh.
It's like, who would have thought?
Yeah, no, I would not have guessed that at all.
Australia, I've actually had several Australian Nebbiolos.
Mhm. And
They're very good. They're a little bit riper,
okay.
but they aren't as different. For example, the difference between, say, a Northern Rhone Syrah and a Shiraz is bigger than the difference between Barolo Nebbiolo and Australian Nebbiolo.
Okay.
So it's largely similar, a little bit riper, a little bit darker, but pretty similar in expression. You're just not going to see a lot of it outside of Italy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Next.
Yes. All right. So this is, like I said, a black skin, white fleshed grape. You've actually got this thing where you've got this very intense peripheral zone and skin,
Mhm.
though it's not overly thicker than a Pinot Noir grapes, but nothing compared to, say, a warm growth Syrah. But it is very intense. So it's a very dark skin. It gives a lot of tannin for the medium thickness on there. And it does, because of that, tend to be a more balanced grape than a lot of the red wine grapes, where it keeps that acid all the way through the ripeness period. Thank you. All right. So where are we? We are in northwestern Italy, right up here. So just above, we're about what? 3/4 of the way up on the wine growing latitude in the northern hemisphere. Yeah, 2/3, 3/4 of the way up. We're coming here. So here we are, Piedmont. A little better view. I hear they make really good sheets in Turin. They're to die for. Anyway, Barolo. So here we are, Barolo within Piedmont. We have Barbaresco, much bigger region, right? And Barolo is here. And we're going toward the Alps, so you're becoming more and more mountainous as you head this direction. Dolcetto, this area grows the Dolcetto grape, so it's a different grape, but those are kind of they're also a very important grape to the region. All right,
wow.
Look at
There's
those
the fog.
fogs. There it is. So Barolo, known for its morning fog, named for the village of Barolo. The villages of Barolo and Barbaresco produce the most famous Nebbiolos in the world. The reason for their position is, all right, so why are they so good? They're a little higher elevation. They get above the fog. So they're able to become riper
Mhm.
because of getting above the fog. The fog is so lingers so long,
Mhm.
it actually is difficult to ripen the grapes fully when you're not up in these areas.
Okay.
So they don't get the same quality of full ripeness and expression
Mhm.
because they're not as high altitude. The fog is that pervasive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So Barolo, higher than Barbaresco, a little bolder, a little more
Mhm.
muscular.
Mhm.
They get more tannin. Barbaresco, known as the more feminine expression of high quality Nebbiolo grapes,
Mhm.
a little retains a little bit more of the floral and spice components, a little less, a little higher acid, and a little less tannin. So not quite as ripe in expression, but gorgeous and incredible for food pairings.
And then Megan wanted to know if the Nebbiolo grown here is the full vine or is it grafted?
Everything that I saw here was grafted. And so I believe they're all grafted. Yeah. Okay, so next one, please. This is another picture of Barolo. So here it is without the fog. As you can
Sure.
see, we're dealing with hills and
Mhm.
the foothills going into the Alps.
The rose.
Yeah. And there are the rows.
Yeah.
That's right.
Next.
Yes, please. All right. So Cantina Vallebelbo. All right. Founded in 1965. So one of the things I was talking about with this is I'll talk to you why it does Barolo and Barbaresco. It is a co-op, which we've had before from Italy. 160 grower co-op is what this really
That's
is.
right. I didn't see
They
that.
bring it all together with one winemaker to direct it. But because of that, they're actually cutting out several middlemen.
Mhm.
And that is one of the reasons that this is, and we won't cover pricing on here, this is really well priced for a nice
Because they're cutting out some of those
Barolo,
middlemen.
because they're cutting out some of those. And the bottom line is it went from there to a direct importer. So we cut out another person
Yeah.
from the importer to the distributor, because they're one and the same, to us. So we cut out at least 2 middlemen on this.
Yeah.
And it allows us to have this really nice, true expression of Barolo at quite a delightful price point for what we're getting at.
Yeah.
Um,
Didn't we see that like in California recently? We had like 5 different growers that decided to come together and do something. I can't remember what it was. I think it was California though. Anyone remember?
I can't remember.
Okay,
Right.
I'm gonna look back in the
Okay.
things afterward. Because I think that's what it was, but go ahead.
So anyway, they're kind of bragging on themselves. Between the whole collective, they have 1,200 acres of different of Nebbiolo vines. They're very excited about the direct import because they're saying they're excited to be able to share it with more people. And they talk about why. They talk about lean cherry fruits, bolder black currant, rose petals, nice tannins and acidity, all the things we talked about. You know what they wanted us to taste? I'm happy that we're tasting. So the video, we're going to go to a video next because they are a collective, so it's a little hard to kind of grab pictures of exactly who they are.
Sure.
So what I thought was cool about this is it's in Italian. There's a little bit of subtitling in English, but it goes into the bottling process. So we get to see how wine is bottled,
That's cool.
whether it's Stelvin enclosure or cork.
Yeah.
So it's really more about that. So don't worry about what the guy is saying because it's all in Italian, you know. But I thought it was a fun
Megan
look
can
at-
translate for us.
That's right. She's on it. But I thought it was a fun look at that side in the production process.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
But you can see like right there, you can see all the hills.
Yeah. Are the hills alive?
Yeah, probably after you drink enough.
Presso la cantina Vallebelbo, che è una cantina sociale, e questa cantina è stata fondata nel 1956 ed è rappresentata da 150 soci con un complessivo di circa 400 ettari di campo. Qui nella cantina, su questi 400 ettari di vigneto, il 90% è rappresentato dal Moscato d'Asti, quindi dal Moscato d'Asti del CG, di fatti è il nostro principale. In questa cantina vengono conferiti circa 50.000 quintali di uva e vengono pigiati interamente qui nello stabilimento e una parte vengono dedicate alla vendita del vino nelle e adesso nel 2022 siamo riusciti a raggiungere un imbottigliato di circa 4 milioni di bottiglie, quindi un bel risultato per una cantina sociale e sperando che in tempi migliori il crescere di questa produttività sia sempre migliore. Grazie alle macchine Arol ci aiutano naturalmente nella tappatura delle bottiglie. Noi abbiamo 2 macchinari Arol che sono il Saturno e il One che servono per tappare sia le bottiglie di spumante, quindi con il profumo, sia le bottiglie con il quindi per plasti e poi invece il macchinario One che è un tappatore a vite ci permette di lavorare le bottiglie con la tappatura Sterling. Sì, siamo molto soddisfatti perché il servizio Aro ci supporta fin dall'installazione del macchinario nuovo, sia per qualsiasi inconveniente, ci supportano per consigli e per qualsiasi chiamata che abbiamo bisogno, il servizio tecnico è molto all'avanguardia.
Yeah. There's a lot of.
Would you like me to stop the share now?
Yes, please. All right, so that is the majority of the presentation. Let's collect any last thoughts and questions that have come up now that I've thrown all that out there before we get into thanking our sources and thinking about what you guys might rate it. So last thoughts or anything additional that's come up? Food pairings that worked out particularly well or poorly?
Or poorly?
Is going to shock you guys. I love this one. I think it is. I think it's a great wine. There are some wines that we have that I'm like, this is pretty good, but with food, it's great. I think this is a great wine, and then I think it's great with, and it's a great food pairing wine as well, and it just brings out different things. I love it either way. We did.
Garlic and red wine braised short ribs, Parmesan polenta, and then garlic broccolini.
Yeah, it was like an all day recipe, but like it's just like throw it in the oven, let that stuff simmer for all day, and it was great. And this complemented like every aspect of those so well.
I was gonna say, one of the things that I really like about old world wines is that I feel like they go with like every part of the meal. Is that like, I feel like they're not designed, but like they go like from beginning to finish for meals. Like you can just have one wine and it probably works. So I really appreciate that, rather than like one of the things where it's like, oh, well, this went well with the main dish, but not the sides, or, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I because they're so complex, I guess. So they hit different notes with the different parts of the meal that sometimes other wines don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Especially if it's just the two of you that are eating. It's different if you have like a bunch of people, then you can switch wines, but yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We can still switch wines. There's 2 of us. We can.
It's not even 9.
I mean,
That's right.
Haven't even yet begun.
That's right. I believe in you guys. But and I also like the whole point about this one, which is I consider this to be a friendly Barolo.
Mhm.
It lives up to what you need to get out of Barolo, but it's friendly enough to sip alone.
Mhm.
It's sipping, you know, yes. Is it better now than it was an hour ago? Yes, it is even better now
Yeah.
and more mellow. But from the beginning, you can enjoy it. And I can speak from experience. I've literally had a wine that I know for a fact is a high quality Barolo that I could not enjoy. It was too wound up.
Yeah.
So this is not that, which I love that about it.
Yeah.
Like it's
Absolutely.
ready to go, it's ready to enjoy, but you're still getting the Barolo experience.
Right.
Um,
Well, but it's also ready to go after 6 years. I mean,
right.
it's a 2017.
Yeah. Well,
So we're not drinking it in 2017 or 2018. We're drinking it in 2023. So
right. Yeah, you definitely.
yeah.
But this is the current release, like they just.
Okay,
released
no,
it.
I get that. But what I'm saying is it's, it has had some time in the bottle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because even this friendly one
Mhm.
needed this time.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure,
And
absolutely.
that's intrinsic to a high quality, well-grown Nebbiolo grape.
Mhm.
They're not made to drink young. If somebody offers you a young Nebbiolo, punch them in the face.
You heard it here. Jeff said you could do it.
That's right.
That'll be your
They're-
defense. If
they're
you have
insulting
to
you.
shoot they'll be like,
Yeah.
Jeff told me I could punch them in the face.
Yeah, Nebbiolo Nouveau, it's a new thing.
No.
I think the amount that the wine has changed over the past hour has been fascinating, and it hits different notes over the hour. And at first it was like, I didn't taste the cherry at first at all, even though I'd had it open for 30 minutes by the time we started. And then about 45 minutes to 50 minutes, I was like, oh, and there it is, and I love that. And I think that's why part of the reason I think it would go so well with a meal is because it actually, when you're having something, it's going to change if you're having a meat versus if you're at the end of your meal and you're having something sweet or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a lot of, hold on, let me go back.
Okay.
So the Snyder's had it with herb chicken and Parmesan rice. How was it with that? Awesome.
Nice.
So, and then Rachel said she's never left a bottle open for so long. Because it's all gone before that. There you go.
She's been working hard at holding herself. The restraint is strong with this one.
Yeah. And no kids, Chris and Robin, which is what they noted on that one video.
Yeah.
No kids, nothing better. She's to make food all day. I mean, they do have jobs, right?
Yeah, and they can pet their cats.
Good, that's true.
Good cats. They're nice cats.
Good. And then the Snyder's, if no dinner, I would snack with stinky cheese and bread. Yeah.
All right.
Salami,
I like stinky cheese.
great charcuterie wine. Went well with, I think every wine for Julie is a great charcuterie wine, and for Linda, right? Everyone goes with, yeah. And then,
Honestly, they do go with it. Like
Well,
you can work with it. That's the great thing.
be very
That's the point, right? Charcuterie
So-
board, you're all over with all these different flavors. It's the great thing about them.
spicy buffalo meat tacos, spicy black beans and cheese grits. The pairing was great. Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. Work from home.
I do have
Mouse
a
chambers, am I
question.
right?
So, I have
What
a
is-
quick question at risk of sounding dumb, but so earlier you were speaking about how the barrel really helped to tame the flavors. So I was just curious about the barrel types in the US or other places versus Italy and how that would work with the wine and influence it, or does it, how much does it, I guess, how much would it influence what it would taste like?
So how much
That makes
would,
sense.
How much
So
much
because
would
before you were
the-
saying it was so new that it really helped to tame the flavors, right? So would the barrel type vary from country to country, or?
it's affected largely by style of country. I would say that makes sense as an overarching thing. So old world producers, so we're talking about Italy, France, Germany, Spain. Though Spain tends to use more aggressive oak, so that you can't paint everything with the same brush. Greece, but old world tends to want to express their grapes a little bit more, so they're going to use less reactive wood. New world tends to prefer more aggressive wood. We like that vanilla and jumping in and really kind of working with it. So you can have an effect with where it's being done, but the biggest choice in the end is going to be the winemaker themselves and what they want to accomplish. So they will choose and they become experts. And I'm not an expert on barrel choice. I know the generalization of American oak, French oak, a little bit like Hungarian oak, that kind of thing, but mostly those two, because that's almost everything in the world. And then what happens with newer oak, newer barrels versus older barrels. But there are nuances of char levels within the barrel, and there's all kinds of stuff. It's a whole study on what happens from there. So it gets very specific, but I would say, to me, because there are people in the US that decide to make something that they want to taste more old world, it comes down to what the winemaker wants to accomplish. So if they want something that's young, if they want to be able to serve it younger and they want to tame it down, they'll use a more aggressive American oak. And so they understand, okay, this thing's going to have a lot more vanilla in here, but it's going to be round and luscious. I'm going for that. Good, But if they're looking for something else, because like I say, they can grow almost anything in the world in Paso Robles, right? Maybe they grow some Nebbiolo in Paso Robles and they want to be true to form, and they get some really neutral oak to leave it aggressive and tight. They could totally do that, but that's coming down to the winemaker's choice.
Do you have any wine that you like that is in stainless steel barrels?
Oh yeah, we just did a Chateauneuf de Pop that was all stainless steel. Oh, and cement. Sorry, it was both. But let's say avoiding oak as maybe the point. That Chateauneuf de Pop that we all just had as a group was absolutely fantastic, and no oak on it. And then there's some Chardonnay that's done without oak in order to get rid of the creamy edge.
In stainless more
Yeah,
often.
a lot of whites, because a lot of Sauv Blanc and a lot of Pinot Grigio, some Chardonnays, the ones I tend to like a little bit more, some white blends. But it's fun to see some of the reds. When I've had stainless steel reds, they're usually from Italy. Though the last one was the Chateauneuf, so that was a Frenchie. But yeah, that was. But I've had several Italian stainless steel reds that were very fresh and bright and vibrant, and they almost scratch the same itch as a Beaujolais from France.
Huh.
The kind of big fruit pop.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, I've talked to some vintners that swear by it. They love their stainless steel. That's exactly what they want, and they want the grape to speak for itself. Have you heard about the trend of starting with concrete barrels?
Yes.
That's
The Chateauneuf started with that.
Chateauneuf was concrete.
Yeah, that was concrete and then stainless finished, and it really brings out the minerality in the grapes.
Yeah.
And that's an excellent technique as well.
And we've had others before that were concrete as well.
Yeah, concrete
Or
has
those
a great
big clay things. What are they
amphora.
called? Amphora.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely a lot of options out there other than just oak.
Yeah.
And you get very different expression on your wine. And once again, that comes down to what does the winemaker want?
Yeah.
What do they want to express?
Well,
And they are probably tasting their grapes and thinking, what can I express the best?
sure.
Sure, it could be a piece of what they wanted to accomplish, but I think from the winemakers I've met and the interviews I've seen, I think most of them kind of try to bend and influence their grapes rather than dominate and force the grape to be what they had in mind.
Sure.
I think the better winemakers are that way. California has some winemakers that don't believe in influencing, and they dominate the grape and they make something that they can produce a gazillion times. But for the most part, California's not the only one, but many of them are. But the really nice winemakers that we like, most of what we bring into the store tends to be, they work with what they have rather than trying to dominate it.
Chris and Robin have to leave.
All right, bye guys.
Bye.
All right.
And Jerry said that he's had both reds and whites that are German reds and whites in steel.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
No, that makes total sense. Oh gosh. That German Pinot Noir, the Spätburgunder that Linda and Paul brought. Oh, it was so good. I wish I could get that wine. Sorry, I shouldn't bring up a wine I can't even get.
I'm just, I was like, I'm so glad you could pronounce that, because I was like, I don't even know. So.
Well, I've got my good friend Jerry to thank for that. But I will say, and I will be bringing more of them in, German Pinot Noir is not to be ignored. It's absolutely delicious. Yeah.
So
I mean, not everyone, but like anything else in the world, but the good ones are so good.
So for that tasting, you just kick me out and Jerry sits here and you guys talk about it.
All right. So,
What'd you say?
No, no, no.
Yeah, no, nobody wants to see this without you here. All right, we've all established this.
Thank you.
That's right. So, all right, let's go to
The
the
ratings.
ratings. So you guys have heard me say this many a time. All right. The wine ratings tend toward 90 and above for solidly well-made wines. And a lot of that is because the winemakers that present them for review know that they have a good wine because they're paying to have them reviewed. And so they do tend to be clustered around a good review, but that doesn't mean that that's where you have to be. But take into account, did I enjoy the wine? Did it kind of talk to me in a way that was different? Was it good for the price? And did it have something fun for the region? And was it just generally well made? So factoring in, did you legitimately enjoy the wine, but also factoring in, just in case you're sampling something outside your comfort zone, right? But taking all that into account, is it a very good wine? Because I'm going to tell you, an 88 is not a bad rating. People tend to think of it that way, but that's not fair. Yeah. But also, you know, was it way better than that? Whatever you would like. So thinking about all that and your enjoyment level, go ahead and pop in a review and we'll talk about what everyone thought.
Okay, so Chris loved it, 94, 93 from Robin. Chris heartily disagreed with that. So I guess John isn't there this week. Okay, so Laura, Linda, and Brenda, all 90 with food, a little less on its own, 88.5.
Okay.
90 from Jerry on its own after it had opened up, going with a 90 from Megan, 92 from Rachel, 90 from David. I think this is my third glass, so
Yeah.
93.
All right. Nice. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to give an X rating of 90 plus points.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's an easy one on that. I think when you combine the combination of price point with it, and ease of drinking for a Barolo, but it still is true to form and it gives you what you want out of a Barolo. I think that all comes together. That's an outstanding wine.
Yeah.
Very nice. Fantastic buy. I'm very happy with it.
Yeah.
Makes me happy. So that's an
Absolutely.
easy 90 month. I try to be a little more ambiguous on mine, but
So 90
I don't,
plus.
but 90 plus for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, would recommend. Absolutely. I mean, I already texted Myra and was like, if you like Italian wines, get this one, let it sit open in a decanter for 45 plus minutes, but you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad everyone seemed to really enjoy it. I
Yeah.
love that. Consuelo's at an 89. Wunderbar.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm going to share and we'll
Okay.
go to our sources.
We got to thank everybody that helped me make this presentation. All right, Wine Folly, always amazing resource for wine. Love those guys. Love her and her videos on YouTube as well. Wikipedia 750, Cantina Vallebelbo 100 Ita, and Franz Schauenberg. That was one of the pictures.
So you just thanked everyone that helped you make this?
And Elizabeth. Okay.
I'm not a source, but I did help you make
You
it.
did. I was thanking my sources. You were the source of my inspiration.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right, next week.
I will pour it on too thick. You said. All right.
No, you pour it on too thick and I'll just walk away. You'll see me
Okay.
leave.
All right. Next week, it's time to lighten things up. We've had a bunch of big reds in a row. You know what that means, everybody.
Means a white.
You can do this. You can do it. Stick with us. All right. Next week, we're going to a rosé.
Okay.
We're getting into the season of rosé all day. It's spring, right?
Okay.
But we're staying in Italy.
All right.
So we're going to Puglia for an Italian rosé. Not many ratings. It tends to be 88 plus. Nothing in the last couple of vintages. They're
Okay.
not very big, but they,
Okay.
they put it out there. So look, generally favorable. In addition to the fact that I drank it, I like it. All right.
Okay.
I mean, I've
All
had it.
right.
Really nice rosé. Food pairings because it's got a little more oomph to it.
Mhm.
Mango salmon,
Mhm.
strawberry poppy seed salad, brie and goat cheese, fish tacos, or strawberry lemonade macaron.
That all sounds delicious.
Right, let's do yes, all of them. How
Yes,
about that?
all, yes, all.
So, yes, join us. You'll find maybe, I think you will, a rosé that you quite enjoy. Spring and summer is coming up, and it is that time.
I mean,
So-
spring is here. But
It is.
Sure. Summer's coming.
And we're staying in Italy. It's going to be fun.
Okay, all right.
All right.
I'll stop the share. Any last questions, comments, wonderings, anything before we stop the recording?
Looks like we're good.
All
All right. In that
right.
case, toast to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.